What's going on, guys? This is Wheeler and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be going over the worst part about owning a high-end Corvette, specifically the C8ZR1 in this case, but this also applies to the high sticker C8Z06s and E-Rays as well. And it starts with this. We'll go over the details of that in a minute, but that problem is part of the crux of owning the most expensive products that GM has ever produced. If you're not new here, the pricing information on this car won't surprise any of you, but for those that are just tuning in, this is my 2025 C8ZR1, which had an original MSRP of $213,000 US. But being fully transparent, I did pay a $50,000 market adjustment, meaning that with MSRP, markup, and tax, total for this car would be $278,000. I did have a car to trade in though, so I traded in my C8Z06, so I didn't have to pay the full $278,000. After the trade-in and tax and whatnot, it came out to about $162,000 that I had to write a check for to get the ZR1. But on paper, it is a $280,000 car for this GM product. And many of the C8Z06s now are going for mid-$100,000, often $150,000, $160,000, depending on what options you get. If you get the Z07 package, the carbon wheels, you can spec them up very high, almost to the $200,000 range for just the Z06, not even the ZR1. The reason for going over the price is to highlight that these are no longer budget-friendly cars. They're expensive cars, reaching over $250,000 in this case. And based on the check engine light I just showed you, you may think that the biggest issue with owning America's supercar for $280,000 would be its reliability or the quality. However, that's not the case. The biggest issue is actually dealerships and service. When you buy a real supercar, a Lamborghini, a Ferrari, or a McLaren, the manufacturer and dealer knows that you're spending big money, at least $250,000 at minimum, to buy one of their cars. And as such, the dealer and service experience often reflects that price tag as well. You're treated like you're spending $300,000. You have a problem with your car, they'll come pick it up. They'll drop you off a loaner vehicle while it's gone. And then whenever the service is completed, they'll drop the car back off to you, often treating you with a bit more respect throughout this whole process as well. However, when buying a Corvette, even though you're spending in some cases the same price as a supercar from some of these other brands, that's not the norm for the dealer. Their service department, treatment, and expectations are aligned with their average customer in mind, which is not a $300,000 customer. It's usually a $30,000 to $80,000 customer. And as such, even though you spent $250,000 on a car, you're given the same service experience as someone who spent $40,000 on a car. I'm lucky to have a really good relationship with my local Chevrolet dealership. My dealer is great. I have my tech's phone number. I have the owner's phone number. I can arrange appointments very easily. If there's an issue, we can get it resolved. But that's not the case for the average buyer getting a high-end car like this for the very first time. Not everybody has a social media platform or a 10-year relationship with an existing dealer. I'm aware that I'm in a super fortunate position, and I'm grateful for that. But that's not the experience of an average buyer at your random or local Chevrolet dealership. And that's something that a buyer needs to notice. And you could look at this and think, oh, there's just something wrong with Chevy because they're not treating their customers better. It's not that Chevrolet doesn't value you as a customer, or not that they don't want to provide good service. It's just not how their service department is structured. You have to keep in mind that Chevrolet sells almost 2 million vehicles a year. And all of those vehicles have to be serviced, whether it's routine maintenance or recalls. But someone like Lamborghini, for example, in 2024 set their record for most number of cars they've ever produced in a given year, and that number was less than 11,000 total. Chevrolet just has more overall customers, thus more service appointments, and it means it usually takes longer wait times to get you in for service, and that means tired or annoyed service employees due to the volume of customers, often leading to a lesser customer experience and less ability to treat each individual customer with a greater experience. Whereas someone like Lamborghini may have only a few cars in service at a given time, they can get other cars in quickly and get them out quickly because there's just fewer of them to deal with. And because these service people just have to deal with less issues and less customers overall, they're often less stressed, and it gives you, the customer, a better experience overall. And I am speaking from experience here. If you're new, you may not know, but I've said it before, I owned a Lamborghini Aventador for about 8 years, put almost 20,000 miles in that car, and that car broke constantly. It needed its engine replaced at 800 miles while it was brand new. Seriously, I posted an entire video going over all of the times it was in service, how much it cost, all of the problems. It was a nightmare. Definitely go check out that video. I've had plenty of experience with the exotic car dealers and service departments, and I've had plenty of experience with the Chevrolet and American car dealerships as well. I've now owned 6 Corvettes and put over 200,000 miles on the Corvette platform. Put over 70,000 miles on my C7 Stingray, 60,000 miles on my C8 Stingray, 20,000 miles on my C8Z06, 4,000 miles on my C8ZR1, and then 3,000 miles on my C7Z06. And they have all collectively been in the shop less than that one Aventador was. So for all those saying, oh, it's because you're buying American, you have all these problems, it's because you're not buying a real exotic brand, real supercars don't do that. Yes, they do. Most people just don't like to show when their supercars break because it hurts their ego whenever they show their $300,000 purchase isn't working out as planned. But I try to be as authentic and transparent as possible, so I'll show you guys when things break or things go wrong. And that's the truth. All cars break. All cars will need to go to the dealership. All cars will need service. So it depends on the trade-offs you want to make on your purchases. Would I rather have a lesser service experience, but I don't have to go as often with a Corvette? Or would I rather have to go to service more frequently and pay more for it, but my experience is a lot better? It's like, would you rather see a doctor every 5 years, but he's a really mean, nasty guy? Or have to go to the doctor every single month, but he's the best guy in the world? I don't know about you, but I'd rather have to go to the doctor every 5 years than every month. It's kind of the same situation here, but it is something to note. Cars are all about what you value, what's worth your money, in your opinion. It's subjective. No one is forcing you to buy any particular car. Buy what you want, and most importantly, buy what you can afford. But I do think it's something to note if you are buying a high-end Corvette, a Z06, a ZR1, and you're coming from the supercar market, or maybe this is your first high-ticket purchase and you're just expecting service to be incredible because you're spending $300,000, you should know that at a Chevrolet dealership, the quality of service that you get doesn't scale based on the amount of money that you spend. Versus at Lamborghini, they know everybody in there is spending at least $250,000, so the service is going to be generally, ideally, at least a $200,000 experience. The reason I thought of doing this video in general is because a local friend of mine, I guess an acquaintance, coming from the supercar market, recently got an E-Ray as a daily driver. He had some issues with it, went to the dealer, was used to the high-end dealer experience that you get with other brands. He has a Ferrari, he has a Turbo S, he has some nice cars. He's familiar with being treated with that level of service because he's spending a lot of money on these cars. And whenever he went to go service his E-Ray, he couldn't get in for an appointment. He wasn't treated the same way that he was used to, especially based on the amount of money that he was spending. And he ended up selling the E-Ray and just going back to the exotic car market and got a Turbo S instead. And that's okay. Cars, the whole service experience, everything is subjective and preference, what you feel like you're getting your value out of. For him, he thought he was spending that money and he wasn't getting the value out service-wise, so he sold the car, and that's fine. But if you don't care and you want to have this car, you want to have a Corvette, and you aren't that concerned with the service experience, then that's fine too. At the end of the day, it's all about what you want, what you enjoy, where you think you're getting the value out of your money. But I do think it's important to note, if you are coming from the supercar market or this is your very first high-end purchase, that the service experience isn't going to be matching of the level that you're spending on the car. And another thing to talk about is actually how much service costs on each of these cars. So the Lamborghini service is just going to cost more, especially out of warranty. I've spent more on that one Lamborghini than I have on all of my Corvettes collectively over faults, over things breaking. It was just a more expensive process, even though the service experience was better. So it's all about trade-offs, what you value, what you're okay with, but it's important to be informed before making decisions like spending $250,000 on a car. But let's talk about the check engine light that popped up on this car. So about a week ago, I had the check engine light pop up and a little warning pop up in the dash saying rear axle system off. Okay, plugged in the scanner to see what it was and was saying like obviously a transmission fault because the rear axle system, the electronic limited slip differential was turned off. That's what the rear axle system is. And then it said something about solenoid H being stuck on. So it's a solenoid within the valve body of the transmission that I guess wasn't being actuated properly. That could be due to several things. I've done my fair share of reading and talked to my tech and everything. It can be anything down from debris in the transmission fluid, not being able to let that solenoid close. It could be something is wrong in the valve body. The solenoid needs to be swapped out. The entire valve body needs to be swapped out. Some people, it just went away on its own because the debris got loosened up. It depends. I'm taking it to the dealership sometime tomorrow to hopefully get that diagnosed and fixed. Obviously, the car's still under warranty, and I've confirmed that with them, so it'll be all good price-wise. But nonetheless, that's the issue that I've had with this car. Despite everybody telling me that this car is broken, that it's slow, that it's a lemon, this is actually the very first diagnosable problem that I've had with the car. I haven't had to take it to the dealership for anything else. I haven't had any other lights come on. Obviously, whenever I swapped the exhaust, check engine light came on, but that was because of the cats. Nothing to do with the car itself. Any time that the car has been to the shop, whenever I swapped its springs out or its new wheels or anything, has all been self-induced. There's been nothing wrong with the car that something is broken that I've been needing to take it in. This is the very, very first thing. So the car's actually been pretty good, especially when you consider how hard I drive it, how often it's been to the track, and how often I've used this car. I think that's pretty good. But anyway, that's the update on this car. Hopefully we'll have it back by the end of the week. They're saying that even if it is the valve body, which is like worst case scenario, that can be swapped out relatively easily if they have one on hand. If not, they'll have to order one. Either way, should be getting the car back, and then we can send it down the drag strip for some more runs. Kind of bad timing because the weather has been cool here and I wanted to get some runs in, but I do need to take it in for service because if there is a transmission issue, that needs to be resolved. I don't want to just send it down the drag strip and then the transmission blows up. So we're going to get that taken a look at and get fixed. That is pretty much it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed and found that a little bit informative. I thought that was an interesting topic to go over. Make sure to leave a thumbs up, comment, even subscribe if you guys want to. Sorry for the missed uploads the last week or two. Again, because of Christmas and holidays, a lot of stuff going on and the car obviously needing serviced. I didn't have anything to really film, didn't have time to film. But now we're going to be back to business as usual. I hope you guys enjoyed the video and I will see you guys in the next one.